Ukraine isn't just defending, it's disrupting. From striking air bases to shutting down defense plants. This week's stories come with a message. There are no safe zones in a war of survival. And while Ukraine sharpens its blows, Russia doubles down, killing emergency workers in Kyiv as they saved lives. We've got a lot to unpack, so stay with us. This is The Gaze. Don't forget to follow our website, YouTube, and socials for more sharp takes and frontline reporting. Ukraine's defense forces launched a high-stakes, high-precision campaign against key Russian military targets. Buckle up, this isn't just another drone story. In the early hours of June 6, a wave of Ukrainian drones paid an uninvited visit to the Engels air base in Russia's Saratov region, the notorious home of strategic bombers like the Tu-95MS and Tu-160. But this time, it wasn't the aircraft that was hit. The real target was the nearby Rosreserv Kristyle oil storage facility, which keeps those bombers fueled and ready to rain destruction on Ukraine. At the same time, a second strike rocketed the Dyagilevo air base in Ryazan Oblast, another hub of strategic aviation and aerial refueling. And the message here? Russia's deep rear isn't as deep or as safe as it thinks. And the hits kept coming. On the evening of the 5th of June, Bryansk airport lit up with secondary explosions, the classic signature of ammo or missile depots going up in flames. Independent Russian outlet Astra confirms a Mi-8 helicopter was destroyed, an Mi-35 attack chopper was left damaged. Then came a loud knock at the door of the Progress plant in Michurinsk, a key cog in Russia's military-industrial complex. This facility develops advanced electronics for targeting systems, stabilization devices, and C2 components that guide missile strikes on Ukrainian cities. It's not just a factory, it's a nerve center, supplying parts to Rostec, Techmash, and mass-producing elements for Tornado, Msta, Gyatsynt, and the infamous Iskander missile systems. Ukraine's general staff didn't mince words. This is only the beginning. These coordinated strikes on Russia's war machine will continue until the full-scale aggression is halted, or rather, until it's made to stop. And for those who call it escalation, here's a brutal fact. Later that night, Russia retaliated with a massive missile barrage on Kyiv. Among the dead were 4 rescuers, killed not while fighting, but while trying to save lives from the first wave. Russia hit them with a second strike. So, speaking of Ukraine's strikes, preemptive, maybe. Necessary, without question. And the message here, if you bomb rescuers, we bomb bombers. It's a day of absurdity, of jaw-dropping, sanity-questioning quotes. And of course, Donald Trump made the day. Again. On the 6th of June, Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz visited Donald Trump at the White House, their first meeting since Merz's May 6 election. They discussed war, trade, and inevitably, Trump made it weird. When Merz mentioned the historic significance of the 6th of June, D-Day, the day Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy in 1944 to begin liberating Nazi-occupied Europe, Trump responded in, well, a Trump way.
I'm here, Mr. President, to talk with you later on how we could contribute to that goal. And we all are looking for measures and for instruments to bring this terrible war to an end. And may I remind you that we are having June 6 tomorrow. This is D-Day anniversary, when the Americans once ended a war in Europe. And I think this is in your hand in specific, in ours.
That was not a pleasant day for you?
No, that was not a pleasant...
This was not a great
in
day.
the long run, Mr. President, this was the liberation of my country from Nazi dictatorship.
What exactly is going on inside that orange haze sitting on Trump's shoulders? The one some still insist on calling the head of the American state, because what came out of it wasn't a question and not even a joke. This revolting, vile, and grotesque comment wasn't just some gaffe. It was a glimpse into Trump's MAGA mind. Where nuance dies, history is a punchline, and diplomacy is scorched earth. The real question that now lingers louder than ever, on D-Day 1944, what side would Trump have been on? Because this isn't just a quote, this is a stain. And worst of all, maybe he wouldn't have picked a side at all. Just sit back, arms crossed, watching history burn.
Sometimes, and this is me speaking maybe in a negative sense, but sometimes you see two young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while and then pulling them apart. And I gave that analogy to Putin yesterday. I said, President?
Well, good advice. I think the last time I saw two children fighting in the park, the Russian kid was waving a nuclear club. But Trump knows what he's doing. His special envoy Keith Kellogg's daughter is absolutely safe in Ukraine, right?
Loud night in Kyiv, Dad. It might be the explosions and gunfire in the dead of night, but I get the strange feeling the Russians don't want peace. Megan Mobbs, director of the RT Weatherman Foundation on X social network.
Here it is, a new dream map, allegedly outlining Russia's military ambitions through the end of 2026. The entire left bank of Ukraine plus Odessa and Mykolaiv regions. The goal? To punch through the Transnistria, carve out a so-called corridor, and use it as a menace to the Balkans. But here's the truth. It's Ukrainian defenders who are holding the line, making sure none of Russia's imperial fantasies become reality. And yet, I have to confess, watching Russia's Ministry of Defense officially announce, well, anything, is always a guilty pleasure, and especially those dazzling figures of imaginary victories. Truly breathtaking stuff. So go ahead, indulge.
In total, since the beginning of the special military operation, the following have been destroyed: 663 airplanes, 283 helicopters, 61,813 unmanned aerial vehicles, 610 anti-aircraft missile systems, 23,790 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,570 multiple rocket launchers, 25,782 field artillery and mortars, 36,533 units of special military vehicles. From the Russian Ministry of Defense Telegram channel.
While most of Ukraine was asleep, Russia delivered yet another terror-filled night. In the early hours of the 6th of June, the sky lit up, not with stars, but with fire. Drones, cruise missiles, ballistics, warheads, a full-scale assault designed to kill, maim, and send some sort of a message. It began just after midnight. Shahed drones swarmed Kyiv. Then came the cruise missiles, launched from Russian warships in the Black Sea, and strategic Tu-95 bombers flying safely behind the border. Around 2 a.m., ballistic missiles rained down on the capital and central Ukraine. But the real tragedy unfolded not in strategy but in sacrifice. 4 people were confirmed dead in Kyiv. 3 of them, emergency service workers, were killed while saving others. They were on the ground trying to rescue the wounded after the first wave, and then Russia hit again. 9 more first responders were injured. Several are in critical condition, and in total, 20 people were injured in Kyiv. 16 are now hospitalized.
Kyiv, June 6, 2025. On this day, the State Emergency Service family suffered an indescribable loss. 3 firefighters and rescuers were killed in a terrible Russian attack. The Russians took the lives of people who were the first to rush to eliminate the consequences of the terrible strike. People who went on regular duty, as always in combat readiness. Before going to work, they kissed and hugged their wives and children and never returned. From the publication of Emergency Service of Ukraine on Telegram.
The attacks disrupted underground services, damaging rail tracks and power lines. Several ground stations were temporarily closed. Train routes near Kyiv were also redirected. Emergency power outages affected several neighborhoods. Ternopil and Lutsk were severely impacted by both drone and missile attacks. Fires and destruction were reported, particularly in industrial zones. In Ternopil, 10 were injured, including 5 emergency rescuers during a firefighting operation. Several districts were left without electricity and water completely, and authorities warned residents to stay indoors due to heavy smoke.
Russia does not change its handwriting. Another large-scale attack on cities and ordinary life. They struck almost all over Ukraine. We managed to shoot down some of the missiles and drones. I am grateful to our soldiers for their defense. But, unfortunately, not all of the missiles were shot down. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine. On Telegram.
In Lutsk, a residential apartment building was partially destroyed. 5 people injured, entire families evacuated overnight. 15 drones and 6 missiles struck the city in a single barrage. But the terror didn't end there. Explosions shook the area near Rivne, while missiles were seen cutting across the sky toward Lviv. In Khmelnytsky, private homes and farm buildings burned. And in Poltava, 3 people were injured. Commercial and residential buildings reduced to rubble. This is a night in Ukraine we won't forget. And while rescuers dig through debris to save lives, journalists keep recording, standing not behind but beside the defenders. They capture truth under fire, document horror with trembling hands, and continue to speak when others fall silent. Alona Gramova, Yevhen Karmazin, Alexander Kalichev are Frontline Reporting crew. Watch their story, their courage, in our special feature for International Journalist Day. This is what Frontline Reporting in a war zone looks like. This is Ukraine right now.
Minus 20. We're at the front, working with artillery. They work in any weather, and the worse the weather, the safer the trip. Today it's cloudy, and in such weather there might be fewer attack drones. Ideally, if there's wind and rain, then the weather works in our favor. Alyona, Yevhen and Oleksandr, the filming crew from UATV and Freedom TV. All are natives of Donetsk region. They've been working together for over 4 years, and since the start of the full-scale invasion, in active combat zones, where roads often don't exist.
We have a little bit stuck because we see what kind of roads.
Our jobs sometimes take us places where I start thinking, how are we going to get back? If it rains, that road becomes impassable. Remember that time. We were rescued by the military one time, a nightmare.
Before each trip, the team discusses the route to avoid becoming targets for Russian drones. The bridge is damaged,
But there's no other way.
so we have to take a detour, which costs about 40 minutes. There are no more safe roads left in the Donetsk region. Roads previously used for evacuations and civilian traffic are now under attack from long-range Russian drones.
They're putting up piles and will stretch a net. Remember how safe it used to be here not long ago?
The team has documented countless Russian war crimes, devastated Ukrainian cities and civilian deaths. In June 2023, they themselves became victims of a Russian missile strike. There's your face.
This is the best job in the world.
Yeah, that's our car. Going to the hospital. That day, a Russian ballistic missile hit a restaurant in Kramatorsk. 13 civilians were killed, over 50 injured. Moments after the strike, the team began recording. I remember we were looking for a way out. It felt like forever. Exits were blocked. Sasha pulled me out through a broken door. Hands were shaking, my voice trembled. There was a risk of a second strike, but I still took out my phone and started filming.
People were asking for tourniquets. We could hear voices and cries for help from downstairs. We had to save them, and that's what we did.
Russian shelling also hit the team while filming at Ukrainian military positions. The team repeatedly witnessed double tap strikes when Russia targets medics, police, and rescue workers helping civilians.
In the few years we've been on the job, we've come under repeated fire 10 times. It feels like they are hunting medics, rescue workers, and us.
Conditions on the front change daily. Every protective device helps, including drone detectors. Our sugar is beeping, but hasn't spotted anything yet. Oh wait, it picked something up. Yevon, looks like we're pushing our luck. For safety, they usually work at night, leaving at sunset, returning by dawn. When Ukrainian troops hit Russian targets before they reach civilians, the crew returns in good spirits.
What gives me strength? Maybe it's those successful missions. I remember when we downed a Shahed drone. You hear the sound change, the emotion inside. It's like you shot it yourself. You go home charged with that emotion.
By the fourth year of full-scale war, the team admits it's hard to cope psychologically, but they have their own ways. Yes, I'm physically fine, but mentally exhausted. But when I see our soldiers, I know I have no right to quit. I have to do what they do. So yeah, I'm tired, but we'll keep going. Reported by Alyona Gramova, Yevhen Karmazin, UATV News.
Well, the truth is painfully clear. Ukraine is done waiting. While Moscow hides behind propaganda and retaliation, Ukrainian forces deliver consequences. We don't know what tomorrow brings, but we know who's fighting for it. What do you think will happen next? Drop your thoughts in the comments and stay tuned for more, right here with The Gaze.